Skylock Nation, another glorious day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I've got my best buddy here, Brent Rollins. And Brent, thought we'd go down a journey if you don't mind.
Okay.
An excellent adventure, you might say.
Yes.
I want to go back to the late 1900s.
Yes.
When we first started into the concretious
Okay.
adventures we did, and I want to pull back from your ready mix experience if you could, and maybe just kind of walk down a pathway of different things that you've seen, you've experienced, you've learned, and do several sets of videos.
So a series.
Or miniseries.
Okay.
Depending on how many episodes we get out of this.
I got you.
But that does make me wonder, when does it become a series versus a miniseries?
Mini series versus series.
Yes.
No idea.
What episodic do you jump from?
I'm going to say.
Fine, we'll call it a series, whatever.
Okay. So we had the idea to talk about ready mix concrete QC beyond the testing. Like the things that our experience has taught us that may not be necessarily written down somewhere. So everybody knows the QC test for fresh concrete.
Everybody?
Well, a lot of people know. If you're in the business,
hopefully, if you're in the business, you know. But if you're not in the business, you might not know.
Yeah, and we'll cover some of that down the road. But really, I wanted to talk a little bit about the concrete QC as a system, and what all kind of has to come together to produce good quality concrete day in and day out.
So we're really going to dig into the whole batching process, batch plants, the back end stuff of the QC process before the concrete actually gets to the job site.
Yeah, that's the idea. And perhaps if you're out there, you're working in the concrete business, or even if you're a contractor, you may experience some of these issues that come from missing the mark on some of the QC items that you got. This may be helpful to you. In other words, how to troubleshoot certain things.
So really taking from what I used to do and what you used to do, kind of mesh them together and,
exactly.
Get the back end side of that. And so me as a test guy, I'd run the field properties testing of it and then make cylinders and whatnot. But I'll also be at batch plant sometimes and checking off on batch weights and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's on that front end of everything. And so really we're going to start from the inception of a mix, not getting the mix designs, but just from that point on, how does it get off the ground, through conveyors, into the plant, and onto the job site.
And it really has to kind of start with an understanding of how a concrete plant works. A modern concrete plant is going to have three main systems, and those three main interconnected systems are electrical, pneumatic, and mechanical. So the electrical system sends signals to the plant,
right,
or receives signals from the plant, and that's managed through most, probably 99.9% of the concrete plants that I know of now have a batch computer of some kind.
Right.
The interfaces with that concrete plant through a series of connections that also control pneumatics or air going to valves and gates and things like that to tell them when to open, when to close, etc. And then the mechanical side of things would be the actual physical parts of the plant that you're sending signals to, so that it opens and stays open as long as you want it to, and then closes when it's supposed to, and the belts carry it the way it's supposed to. So there's a lot of background information that some, especially if you're just first coming out of school or you're young in the industry, you may not have thought about all of these things before. It pulls together some sort of, much like safety, quality is really everybody's job. So it pulls together different sets of personnel, different sets of equipment to make sure that you're producing consistent concrete day in, day out. And it goes back, everything kind of falls back to ASTM C94, at least here in the States, where that's the specification for ready mix concrete.
Right.
And it has the tolerances for weighing your materials or metering your materials into the concrete truck. And it's going to give you a range, like water and admix is around 3%, I believe it was.
And that's, but let's just start, that's, pause for a second. That is based on the mix design. So the mix design you submit into the architect and structural engineer design team. You're sending it to them, they're signing off on it, and if you have 624 cement, you have to have a tolerance within that 624 for every load of concrete you're sending out.
Yes.
So we were talking about those tolerances there.
Yes.
For those who might not understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, and occasionally, so 3% is water and admix, 2% is typical for your aggregate. If it's a cumulative scale, I think it's 1% after that, but 1% for cementitious items, and those percentages are the errors that are permissible and still say it's a good batch under ASTM C94 requirements. Now, we're going to dig into a lot of different topics during this series, and some of them may be different than your experience, and that's okay. If you have a different experience, we'd love to hear about it, or a different kind of plant that doesn't face the same kind of problems, please comment, and we'd love to update future videos with some of those other types of equipment.
Just for clarity, because you did say that 3%, 2% is errors. I wouldn't say it's an error, it is just a tolerance of a give or take.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can do it. So it's nearly not error. It falls within the guidelines of what you're able to produce. Outside of that, that's an error.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the idea behind this series, and hopefully it's going to be helpful to you. And please hit us up with any questions, like, subscribe, and we'll work on rolling as many of these out as we can over the next few weeks.
Thank you. Like, subscribe, and if you got any questions, send them to us. We appreciate you.